always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
Hey guys, and welcome to GSMC Entertainment Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Cynthia, and happy Monday, everyone. I hope you all are having a very strong start to your week. I hope you all are just doing the thing, okay, and just going hard, okay? I definitely went hard this weekend. I had a fabulous weekend, actually, and that's why I'm so fatigued right now. It was my birthday yesterday, the 28th. Your girl turned 25. I know she's young, but I don't feel like it. So yeah, it was my birthday over the weekend, and it was really nice. I went rafting with my friends on Saturday at the river, and for the most part, the current was okay. It wasn't anything crazy. It was pretty calm, but there were definitely a couple moments where it did get a little bit chaotic, where our boat kept playing bumper car, or our raft kept playing bumper cars with other rafts. I mean, here in Sacramento, it's insanely hot. So when it's insanely hot, everybody tends to go to the river to cool off. So of course, being a hot weekend in in June. Oh my God, can you tell? I'm out of it. Being a hot weekend in June, in summer, I was it'd be a perfect way to celebrate my birthday, not be indoors, be outside, fresh air, get a tan with my friends. And of course, I'm over here thinking I'm so original. No one's going to be doing this on the weekend. And of course, I saw the entire city of Sacramento and the surrounding area where they're trying to get a raft, okay? I was in line waiting to get in raft over an hour, but it's fine because we ended up getting it, and that was the only irritating part of the day. Other than that, everything was smooth sailing, except for the couple of times when our raft would crash into the other rafts. But it was all fun, very good vibes. I had a blast. And then that was on Saturday, and then on Sunday, my parents wanted to go to the river, so I went to the river again. I went to the river 2 days in a row, and you guys must know, if you're an outdoorsy kind of person and you are outdoors and you're under the sun for many hours, the sun literally drains you. The sun literally sucks the life out of you, and I feel like that carried on through my Monday today, because I couldn't even really properly celebrate my birthday on Sunday since I had to wake up at 4 a.m. today. 4 a.m. What even is that? So yeah, it was a little bit rough getting up in the morning. I was very drained, and it's fine because my day is almost over. So I'm crawling to the finish line right now. But yeah, that's basically the update from, since the last time I talked to you guys. And we're definitely not here to talk about my birthday, even though I can go on and on and on and on, right? We're here to talk about Pop Smoke, Christopher Nolan, and much more. So Pop Smoke, his posthumous album title and artwork have been revealed today. Pop Smoke's upcoming posthumous album, executive produced by 50 Cent, will be titled Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon. And following Pop Smoke's ultimately, untimely death in February, for those of you who don't know, he's a rapper. He was in a house in LA. The house got robbed and he got shot. And it sucks because his career was just starting to take off. I mean, he had bangers already. He dropped, I think, just an album or a mixtape. The most popular tracks, Dior and Welcome to the Party, those just got dropped, and he was literally about to go on tour the following month. like in March or in May, and then he got shot. So it's really sad and unfortunate that happened, because we could tell that he was just dipping his toes into the industry, right? Anyway, so 50 Cent took it upon himself to bring Pop Smoke's first posthumous album to life. Now, the project was tentatively slated for, originally it was for June 12th, and now it's for July 3rd. So it's coming up this Friday. Having been delayed from its original June 12th release date out of respect, for the Black Lives Matter movement, which is still going on strong, so don't get it twisted. And while 50 Cent has yet to make the announcement official, it would appear that the title and album cover for Pop Smoke's upcoming body of work has been revealed, having been made available for pre-order on his online store. Again, the album is set to be titled Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon, and it'll be available in LP and CD format. The former features a projected 20 to 21 week shipping time, the latter a 10 to 11 week, and while the description signals that the album cover is subject to change, as it stands, we're looking at a relatively straightforward black design featuring a digital rendering of a rose. That same rose also appears on the coinciding apparel line with several Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon t-shirts currently available for purchase. There is also a King of New York option depicting Pop Smoke's likeness. He always mentioned that phrase throughout his music, like, I'm the King of New York. All t-shirt packages will come with a copy of the digital album, which should bode well when the Billboard numbers start tallying up. So definitely check out all the designs, including the minimalist album cover at Pop Smoke's online store. However, we have to talk about the album cover for a minute because it's been catching some heat. Virgil, so for those of you who don't know who Virgil is, he is the designer for Off-White. It's like a really expensive brand, and apparently he was the supposed mastermind behind trying to develop and design Pop Smoke's posthumous artwork album cover, and it was just revealed today, and he is getting clowned for it, y'all. Like, this does not even look original. It looks like he made it in a really cheap type of software, and that's what everyone's saying. Like, what is he doing? Like, this looks like a low budget kind of cover art that not a lot of thought was put into, and he's getting clowned for it. I wish you guys can see the Twitter trolling that's going on right now that I'm looking at. But Virgil Abloh actually speaks on designing Pop Smoke's album cover in an Instagram caption that I'll read to you guys right now, because again, he's been catching some heat. So this is what the album or Virgil's caption read. The last conversation I had with Pop Smoke was about what we were going to do in the future. This album cover was one of like 5 things we talked about. In your memory, I just finished it yesterday. As evident of the whole idea, the back of the t-shirt insinuates it's mandatory we put an end to this cycle of violence that plagues us. As heavy as it is, we are celebrating your life the whole way through. So that's what Virgil says regarding the design for for Pop Smoke's album cover. It's supposed to be on the t-shirts as well, but yeah, a lot of people just aren't buying it. People are like, you could have done better. I mean, his comments are even limited, so it's just kind of comical because earlier this month during Black Lives Matter, people were clowning Virgil because here he is charging $500 for a shirt, But when it comes to donating to Black Lives Matter and donating to organizations that support Black lives, he donated a measly $50. So he was already catching heat from the beginning of this month, and he gladly posted his donation talking about, I donated $50. And people were like, you're charging $500, $1,000 for a piece of clothing item, but yet you are donating $50. Bet. So that's kind of why people are really clowning Virgil, saying that he's just putting very minimal effort and he's just continuing along this very poor cycle of how he's portraying himself as cheap. So you guys, we're going to cut into a very brief break. When we come back, we'll be switching into another entertainment topic.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's GSMCpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to GSMC Entertainment Podcast. So this next topic, it's kind of comical how I came up with this idea of why talk about Christopher Nolan. I logged onto Twitter this morning and I saw that he was trending, and I'm like, why is he trending? And it's actually something kind of funny. And Anne Hathaway and other actors and actresses who have worked with the infamous Christopher Nolan, they were saying how Christopher Nolan doesn't allow chairs on set because if there are chairs, then people are going to sit on them. And if people are sitting on them, then that means they're not working. Now, that was kind of funny because, again, Twitter just trolls anybody who is has an outlandish idea or is acting outrageous. And a lot of Twitter users find this idea of Christopher Nolan being like, if you are sitting, then you're not working. So that's kind of how I came up with this idea of let's talk about, the top 10 Christopher Nolan movies ranked worst to best. And this is off of Studio Binder. So we're going to be talking about, which are the best Christopher Nolan movies? How do you rank them against each other? And do Christopher Nolan films get better over the years? And how will Christopher Nolan's next movie measure up? How many times, you guys should tally mark throughout today's episode, how many times I'm going to mention his name, Christopher Nolan. So here's a list of Christopher Nolan movies ranked not by box office haul, but rather by the quality of the story, theme, filmmaking craft, and cinematic experience. So this has absolutely nothing to do with how much money the movie made, box office sales, revenue, nothing. This is purely just based on the story, the theme, the craft, and the cinematic experience. So Christopher Nolan, for those of you who don't know, his movies are great for filmmakers to study because he is one of the few directors who understand both how to craft a compelling story and then support that story through very precise cinematic techniques. So at number 10, we have Christopher Nolan's Following from 1998. Christopher Nolan's first feature film is a 69-minute film noir suspense thriller. The film was predominantly handheld, shot on REBL and a Bolex. The entire movie is in black and white. The film was made in 15-minute stints over the course of a year due to Nolan's financial and production constraints. You see early signs of Christopher Nolan's directing style and cinematic values in this film. The story is great, but the chief reason the film lands at number 10 is purely the technical quality. Nolan was just getting started and his directing style was maturing. Some of these cinematic techniques used by Christopher Nolan include extreme close-ups of insert shots, cross-cutting scenes, and a non-linear story structure. Next, we have The Dark Knight Rises from 2012. And I believe it's still safe to say The Dark Knight Rises would not have been met with the same positive reception if it had not been for the critical acclaim of The Dark Knight. You get a distinct feeling that the third film was highly compromised by the studio and overly complicated even for Christopher Nolan. Did we really want a Joseph Gordon-Levitt Nightwing sequel? Probably not, but I'd like to know why we needed all of these new characters. Why were they all basically just dead ends? There are some amazing scenes which include a mid-air hijacking by a rather buff Sean Connery impersonator, but the various contrivances, plot holes, and the film's ending were not what viewers expected from Nolan. It fell flat, and it just had too many characters, and when a film has too many characters, it just makes it hard for the audience and viewers to keep up with the storyline. It makes it hard for audience members and for viewers to invest in characters' lives, in their persona. It's hard to connect with them, right? At spot number 8, we have Interstellar from 2014. This list becomes increasingly more difficult from here on out. Interstellar has some of the greatest scenes set in outer space since Kubrick's 2001, A Space Odyssey. Many of the visual effects in the film were created beforehand so that the filmmakers could later capture them in camera. This allowed actors to react to their surroundings without the use of green screen. Watching Matthew McConaughey now through an okra field with a pickup or slip into a black hole are just some of the great moments in the film. Interstellar falls short when compared to a film like 2001, A Space Odyssey, due to the same mistake many science fiction films seem to make. Nolan explains too much. As H.P. Lovecraft once said, "With all things mysterious, explain nothing." When you watch 2001, A Space Odyssey, you really watch the film, and it makes perfect sense on a visual level that we get to avoid spoon-fed exposition. There's a chance Interstellar would be higher on this list if it simply had 30 to 50% fewer lines of expositional dialogue. At spot number 7, we have the 2010 film Inception. Inception has some of Christopher Nolan's best movie moments, but it also features some of the most paradoxical and important rule to consider in filmmaking. Once you've established a set of magic rules, you must stay consistent. This film seems to struggle with its own rules quite a bit and then tries to write itself out of some of the contrivances and plot holes or ignores them completely, like the relationship between gravity and time in each dream layer. The concept of dream versus reality is explored in a very interesting way, specifically in regards to Cobb's relationship with his wife, but many of the antagonists and complications in Inception are also a bit faceless and unclear. It's true that our own mind and ideas can be our worst enemy, but much of Inception seems to suffer from the same pitfall as many Marvel films. Hordes of faceless enemies become boring after a while. Without a doubt, there are some amazing new iconic moments in Inception. The film grammar is very strong. The core idea is inventive. The kicks are visually stunning. And the complex ending scene is absolutely superb. All of these achievements solidify Christopher Nolan as a truly unique filmmaker. At spot number 6, we have the 2005 film Batman Begins. Batman Begins is truly a standalone film. It's the origin story that Marvel and the other DC films have been chasing for a while now. The reason they struggle to capture what Christopher Nolan was able to achieve is because they're unwilling to admit that a human story is what superhero films require to become truly immersive experiences. Bruce Wayne is a flawed person. He's haunted by his guilt, consumed by anger, and a desire for vengeance. He is impetuous and corrupted by his own fear. He is someone who needs to be redeemed. And he's sort of a brat. This makes his transformation that much more effective, and Nolan takes advantage of Joseph Campbell's monomyth, but with his own twist. The monastery in the Eastern Mountains, the psychotropic blue flowers, the sword training scene on the ice, the notorious Pick the Ninja game. How about Bruce snagging Ducard as he slides off the snowy precipice? These remarkable moments kept us on the edge of our seats in this film. So you guys, that was the bottom, out of the top 10, those were the bottom 5. We're going to cut into a very quick break. When we come back, we'll continue along Christopher Nolan's top 5 films.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hey guys, and welcome back to GSMC Entertainment Podcast. So we just got done talking about movies. Let's see, Inception, Batman Begins, Interstellar. We talked about The Dark Knight Rises and the 1998 film Following. So those films that I just mentioned right now, those make up the bottom 5 of the top 10 Christopher Nolan movies. We're now going to move on to the top 5. So at spot number 5, we have Christopher Nolan's 2002 film Insomnia. Insomnia is one of the most haunting detective films of all time. Why? Because Detective Dormer is another flawed, Nolan-esque protagonist. He's compromised from the start, and the entire film gains a layer of constant logical suspense and drama. There are no super gadgets, fantasy elements, or space travel. Just a really sleepy detective, haunted by his deeds, and still has a killer to catch. There's a great personal relationship between the hero and the villain, the late, great Robin Williams, and the lines blurred more than usual. Christopher Nolan's film grammar is at the height of its effectiveness, and this is because he hit the perfect balance between a professional budget and reasonable limitations. He had enough rope to climb, but not hang himself. How do I mean? When Christopher Nolan has a huge budget, he will often try to lace together visual spectacle with many of the Christopher Nolan techniques, which can betray his own carefully crafted narratives from time to time. It's not as if we hate the spinning hallways, but sometimes Nolan is at his best when his stories are more contained, more human, and more relatable. This film specifically has some of the best performances of any Christopher Nolan film. At spot number 4, we have the 2008 film, The Dark Knight. Now, I know what you're thinking. How could The Dark Knight not make it to the top 3, right? But before you hurl your collectible Batman sippy cup into that mint condition Gotham lunch box, remember this. We're not ranking the best Batman films or even the best superhero films. We're ranking the best Christopher Nolan movies. There is some truly clunky dialogue as well as some pretty cringe-inducing moments in The Dark Knight. And while I can't be sure this was Nolan or Warner Brothers, we can't ignore these really odd choices. Heath Ledger as the Joker may go down as one of the greatest performances of all time. And while Bob Crane crafted this timeless character, Christopher Nolan and Heath Ledger did an incredible job of bringing him to life. Christian Bale isn't too shabby either. The Dark Knight has some truly unforgettable moments and some of the best performances in a superhero film. The film is all about chaos and the battle, not between good and evil, but Christopher Nolan's take on natural conflict. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an unmovable object, and how every action has an equal and opposite reaction. We're now going to get into the top 3. At spot number 3, we have the 2017 film Dunkirk. Christopher Nolan mentioned that he intentionally built Dunkirk to play like the third act of any other war film, just stretched out across 106 minutes. This is despite the fact that the script for Dunkirk was only 76 pages. It's very similar to Mad Max Fury Road. It's a fantastic visual achievement that shows rather than tells. Dunkirk is one of the most authentic and suspenseful films ever created, and it puts the viewer inside the boots of the soldiers on Dunkirk Beach. Nolan also uses his favorite cinematic device, which is cross-cutting. The entire film structure was influenced by the Shepard tone, which allows the film to continuously rise in suspense throughout. The use of vintage aircraft, lighting, special effects, and a lack of dialogue win the day. Tom Hardy gliding in a Spitfire above the notorious Wine of the Dive bombing Stukas, the slow but inevitable blast on the beach bombing. All great. If you watch this film in the theater, you remember how absolutely deafening the sound design was, just like a real war. It's a roller coaster, you're strapped in, you're on it, and you're not going to get off. The best part of this film is how Christopher Nolan took all of his past successes and combined them with a new effort. He could have done what many directors do, which is to avoid a new challenge and go back to the familiar ground. If Interstellar, Inception, and The Dark Knight Rises suffered from too much dialogue and contrivances, Dunkirk is Nolan's redemption film. He found value in the criticism of his work, and he made an adjustment. At spot number 2, we have his 2000 film Memento. Memento changed cinema forever and shaped Nolan's storytelling style. The film took full advantage of the medium in a way we had never seen before, and in many respects still has yet to be capitalized upon. The combination of themes and various cinematic devices create an eerie and unforgettable film that forces you to question your own memories. And the best part is that generally it could happen to you. Leonard Shelby's world is accessible, even if his condition is abstract. The way Christopher Nolan shot and cut the film together shows us the pinnacle of intentional filmmaking and non-linear story structure. You can see the matured forms of his signature storytelling techniques like time jumps, inserts, Dutch angles, and a convergent narrative. There's something to be said about Nolan's smaller films. They're often more grounded because they have to be, and that really helps to make Nolan's complex ideas a bit more palatable. Not to mention, the structure of the film places us in a very similar situation to that of Leonard Shelby. Less is more, as they say. And then for the best Christopher Nolan ranked film, we have, sitting at the number 1 spot, his 2006 film, The Prestige. The Prestige is one of the great modern films and has the best script of any Nolan film. Nolan found what worked so well with Memento and took that electricity a step further. His pacing improved as well. The theme is carefully intertwined with the subject matter, the world of magicians, the act of filmmaking, and Nolan's personal style. Nolan's found a story structure and subject matter that acts as a thematic metaphor for everything surrounding the film. As others have noted, this is a film about magicians, but it's also itself a magic trick. He built his story upon the structure of a magic trick and then gave nods to that process as well as his own personal obsessions. The acting, cinematography, production, design, costumes, story, editing, everything is top notch. It also brings up important questions about life, death, careers, time, duplicity, magic, memory, and commitment. Commitment to others, your family, your friends, but also to one's craft. So the next step is for you to rent the film, pop some popcorn, flush your phone away, turn down the lights, and enjoy the best Christopher Nolan movie. Because I know I'll definitely be doing that after I'm done recording today's episode. So you guys, that's going to wrap up here at the GSMC Entertainment Podcast. I really hope you enjoyed what we had to discuss on today's show. If you enjoyed today's show, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff because that tremendously helps the show. And I'll catch you guys here next week.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.